100, 101, passing the car at 101, 103, 104.
104 miles per hour. That's how fast Sha'Carri Richardson was going when a Florida deputy told her she was going to jail. 6 months later, she walked out of that courtroom free. But to get that deal, she said 2 words in front of a judge. And those 2 words may cost her more than jail would. Start with the afternoon that put her in handcuffs. On the 29th of January, a sergeant with the Orange County Sheriff's Office was driving in the center lane of State Road 429, a highway on the western edge of the Orlando area. A gray Aston Martin came up on him fast. He watched it flash its headlights at the car ahead, weave across lanes to get around slower traffic, and pass one vehicle on the inside shoulder while that vehicle sat there with its hazard lights blinking. Then he put his radar on it. The screen read 104. The posted limit on that stretch is 65. He hit his lights and sirens, and the Aston Martin pulled onto the shoulder. The body camera footage went public a day later. The driver was Sha'Carri Richardson, one of the fastest women alive, and she started apologizing before the sergeant finished his first sentence. He was not interested. Standing beside her car on the shoulder of the highway, he told her she had been doing 104 in a 65 zone with subpar equipment, flashing people to get out of her lane, following too close, and using every lane to pass everybody. Then he told her she was going to jail for dangerous excessive speeding. Richardson tried to explain. Her phone had been resting on the controls, she said, and it switched the car's driving mode without her noticing. Her back tire was underinflated. The car was new, and she never meant to travel that fast. According to body cam footage obtained by Fox News Digital, she also assured him that she was a law-abiding citizen. The sergeant's answer was short. "That is why they give you a speedometer," he said. "Nothing you say is going to change that." Minutes later, a black Jeep pulled onto the shoulder ahead of them. Out stepped Christian Coleman, an Olympic sprinter and Richardson's boyfriend, who walked toward the traffic stop to speak up for her. Deputies told him to go back to his vehicle. He came back a second time to argue her case, and he left in handcuffs too, charged with resisting an officer without violence. A search of his Jeep turned up a glass smoking device, which added a drug paraphernalia charge. A third sprinter, Twanisha Terry, also stopped on the shoulder and was cited. 2 Olympians were booked into the Orange County Jail that night, and both of their cars were towed. The charge that put Richardson in that cell did not exist 2 years earlier, until the summer of 2025. Driving 100 miles per hour in Florida was an expensive ticket and nothing more. Then House Bill 351 took effect on the 1st of July that year. Under the new statute, driving at 100 miles per hour or faster, or 50 miles per hour or more above the posted limit in a manner that endangers people or property became a criminal misdemeanor instead of a civil infraction. That single change rewrote how a stop like hers plays out. A driver cannot mail in a payment or settle it online. The law forces an arrest, a booking photo, and a mandatory appearance in front of a judge. A first conviction carries up to 30 days in jail and a fine of up to $500. Florida drivers found out fast. In the law's first 12 months, troopers made more than 4,000 arrests across the state, and more than 500 of those came in Orange County alone. A Florida Highway Patrol spokesperson said the pace never slowed. Early on, plenty of drivers simply did not know the rules had changed. A year in, the arrests were still coming at the same rate. Richardson's case became the first high-profile prosecution under that law to reach a publicly reported plea. In early February, she pleaded not guilty and prepared to fight it. 6 months passed. Then, on the 31st of July, her lawyers and the state reached an agreement, and she stood in an Orange County courtroom and gave the judge a different answer. No contest. Those are the 2 words, and they carry more weight than most people realize. A no-contest plea, known in court as nolo contendere, means the defendant does not admit guilt but accepts whatever punishment the judge hands down. For sentencing, the court treats it exactly the same as pleading guilty. The one real difference shows up later, because a no-contest plea generally cannot be used against you as a binding admission of guilt if someone sues you in civil court. So Richardson never said the word guilty. Legally, it made almost no difference. She now carries a criminal conviction. The court ordered her to pay a $500 fine, complete 100 hours of community service, and sit through an 8-hour aggressive driving course. She served no time behind bars. Court records show that outcome is normal for first offenders under this law, who usually leave with fines, classes, and service hours rather than a cell. And that word, conviction, is where this story stops being about a highway in Florida. Rewind to July of 2025. Richardson was arrested at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport and charged with misdemeanor fourth-degree assault, domestic violence, after airport surveillance video showed her repeatedly shoving Coleman and throwing a pair of headphones at him while he tried to walk away. Coleman declined to take part as a victim in the investigation. Prosecutors moved forward anyway. Weeks later, Richardson posted a public apology to him on Instagram and wrote that her apology should be as loud as her actions. That case never went to trial. On the 23rd of December, 2025, Richardson and the city of SeaTac signed something called a stipulated order of continuance. The name sounds complicated. The idea behind it is simple. A prosecutor agrees to put the case on pause for a set stretch of time. The defendant agrees to a list of conditions. If the defendant holds up their end for the full period, the charge usually gets dismissed and disappears. Richardson's pause was set at 2 years. The running news site Let's Run obtained the actual document through a public records request, and the conditions written into it included one specific line: she had to have no criminal law violations. 37 days after she signed that agreement, the Aston Martin was doing 104 on State Road 429, and you already know how the end of July went inside that Orlando courtroom. Whether the SeaTac prosecutor's office looks at her Florida conviction and calls it a violation of the agreement has not been addressed in public. No attorney on either side has commented on it. The question is sitting there, unanswered, while the 2-year clock keeps running into 2027. None of this has touched her running. 7 days before she stood in that courtroom, Richardson was on the track at Icahn Stadium in New York for the U.S. Track and Field Championships. She got out of the blocks slowly and sat behind her own training partner, Kayla White, through the first half of the race. Over the final 30 meters, she ran White down and won in 10.77 seconds, her fastest time in 2 years. White took second, and Tamari Davis finished third. That was her third national title in the 100 meters, and it put her alongside Carmelita Jeter as the only woman since 2000 to reach 3. The season before had been miserable. An injury wrecked her preparation, and her best run of that year was a 10.94 in Tokyo that left her 5th at the World Championships. Sitting on the infield grass in New York afterward, she told NBC Sports that it felt phenomenal to be back in a better place, healthy mentally, physically, and emotionally.